They're beautiful to look at, but to drive, people always ask about the mileage of the cars. It's not necessarily how many miles the car's got on it. Where have you been in the car? What have you done with it? You get that connection to the car. That is now why these cars are really going up in value.
Ryan Bushell isn't just a seller of pre-1990s Ferrari memorabilia. He's a custodian of all things Ferrari. What started from his bedroom after university has now grown into classic Ferrari parts, a business supplying Ferrari owners and collectors all over the world. Ryan's passion led him into this market, and he's injected that same passion into his business approach.
Everything that we sell, we hold in stock. We own it. We're ready to send it out.
I think a lot of companies are drop shipping at the moment, aren't they? And they
For
mitigate
sure.
their risk.
It mitigates your risk, but I think for us, it's kind of saying, look, we believe in this. We're willing to put money into it.
In this episode, Ryan talks about his journey, from selling keyrings on eBay to making connections in Maranello. He explains how he's built trust in such a niche market and shares some hot takes on what it means to own a Ferrari.
The amount of people that are leaving jobs now from jobs that they probably hate, then go and do their passion, is such a massive jump to make.
Just go for it.
Ryan, how are you?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Excellent. Mate, what I need to know, where did this Ferrari obsession start?
So I think it's always been like a passion of mine since I was a kid. So from collecting the models when I was 4, 5, 6 years old, I had like the 1/18th scale models of all the different Ferraris, built a Lego garage to keep them in. And yeah, from there to now, obviously running the business and doing it every single day.
So how long ago did the business start?
So I've been going about 10 years.
Okay.
So yeah, roughly 10-ish years of running the business.
Where are you based?
So Midlands based, near Birmingham, but it's not just confined to that area. We sell all over the world, so stuff kind of goes everywhere.
So did Worldwide start pretty much straight away, or was it like we started like niche in a local area, or is it just an online presence?
No.
What happened? Like what happened?
So yeah, so online from day one.
Yeah.
So I first started selling on eBay. So I'd buy and sell things, and it kind of grew from there. And then thought, okay, we need our own website to kind of manage all of this, and then set all of that up when I finish uni. Quite a lot of our stuff goes to the US, so we deal a lot with the US. But I mean, this week we've had stuff go to Australia, to Japan, Switzerland. We've bought stock out of Germany, so it is really worldwide.
Right. Where were you when you had the idea? As like, I'm just going to start selling Ferrari bits online. Where were you? Like, what were you doing?
So I went to uni, did history at uni, and I've always been into cars. So from, like I say, from a little kid, not just Ferrari, but all marques. Like my dad and mum both into cars. Dad would take me to car shows and going to like the NEC Classic Car Show and things like that when I was younger. And then so yeah, I don't know whether the history thing kind of ties in, and that like I don't know, acknowledgement of the past and things like that, and the history of Ferrari and things. But I kind of looked at Ferrari, started learning a bit more about it, and then started buying and selling small badges and key rings and little parts of the cars and things like that. And then it just grew from there. So yeah, I'd just keep reinvesting all the money into buying more and more stock. I mean, my parents were fantastic. Like when I finished uni, it was kind of between doing the business, and going into law. So I wanted to potentially, go into like commercial law. So I did all the training contract applications and, the interviews with law firms and things like that. And while still, buying and selling these parts, and kind of thought like, what am I doing? Why am I looking at this other career when there's one kind of staring me in the face that I should look at and go into? I was living at home, basically ran it from my bedroom. My mum and dad didn't charge me rent or anything like that. So every penny that I made, I'd reinvest it, buy something else, and just keep turning it over, and kind of grew it from there.
Insane. I love it.
Yeah.
You like must be like one of the few amount of people that have just, instead of going the conventional route that they should have gone, you've called it really early and go, I'm just going to work for my passion. And like the amount of people that are leaving jobs now from jobs that they probably hate to then go and do their passion is such a massive jump to make. But to do it then is like, it's to have the foresight of that's incredible.
Yeah,
man.
I don't know whether it's foresight or just I didn't really have any responsibilities and things.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
as you get, a mortgage and you start progressing in a career, you kind of think, well, if I go now, it's a bit more risky. Whereas I didn't have any of that, so it was just kind of like, just go for it.
Now or
and
never.
I think I've always been a bit of a risk taker, so I've always been into doing that. So yeah.
So was Ferrari always in the family? Was there a reason towards Ferrari over anything else?
I think it was I just love the cars. I think from like I say, from being a kid collecting the models to whenever you see one on the road, I think it's the presence of the car. And then as I learnt more about it, the history behind the brand and all that kind of stuff, that it was just always like the halo brand for me. I think, if you ask a child to draw a car when they're 5 years old, they draw a Ferrari. It's like, I don't know what it is, they color it in red and it's just iconic.
Well, I don't really know what I would be drawing because I can't draw, but yeah,
I'd
imagine a kid would be a Ferrari.
Yeah.
So presume Ferrari F1 fan.
Yeah, I think I've kind of gone in and out of that over the years. I think at the moment they're going through a really difficult patch.
Yeah. But in the Schumacher days,
in the Schumacher days, I think. I was into it then.
Funny, I don't think no one's really dominated since then, have they? Really?
I mean, I think it goes through cycles. I think Hamilton had a real dominant kind of period. Mercedes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But like Ferrari's dominance hasn't really been since. I mean, they had a good stint with Vettel, I suppose.
Yeah. But I think they've never really got that winning formula back. I think they've tried many times. I think obviously with Hamilton coming in now, they're trying to do something.
Has that changed anything for you in the business? Has that changed any conversation since Hamilton has gone to Ferrari? Obviously, you're set up as a Ferrari business. Has that done anything for the business commercially?
I think definitely. I mean, it increased the market cap of Ferrari as a business. Astronomically. I think Lewis Hamilton, it's a huge name. Like, it's always going to bring in a lot of people into the brand. I think obviously people know of Ferrari anyway. It's obviously going to impact my business in some respects, but I guess it's hard to
quantify.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So you went from your bedroom and then you decided to get a location. Is the location just close to home? Was it fortunate that it's central? And has that grown over time?
Yeah, so that's kind of changed over time. Like I said, initially it started from my bedroom. Yeah. So like my commute was 3 steps to my desk. I had parts piled up in the corner of my bedroom. Then it kind of expanded into kind of taking over the whole loft of my parents' house. Then I got a warehouse nearby where they live, racked all of that out, had all of the stuff there. And then it kind of expanded from that point to where we are now, where we've got a dedicated kind of setup where we have everything under one roof. And it's a much, much better setup now. But just close to home and it's well located.
I think about it with the garage business that we've got, like just being central is everything. Even if it just means traveling to different events, you're like bang in the middle. It's just the epicenter.
Yeah.
What's it like building trust with owners, like supercar owners? Like, how did you find starting that? Was it just because you were selling smaller things, it was quite easy?
I think it comes with your knowledge. I think for me, I've acquired so much knowledge over the period in which I've ran the business, and I think I'm still acquiring that. You're still learning every single day. It's a school day, it's a lesson. So I think that kind of speaks to it. I think when you get clients come to you and they say they're looking to complete their toolkit for, say, a Ferrari 275, and I know the exact tools that you need, why it's specific to that year and not another car. I think when they see that, I think that just builds the trust.
And they're just gravitating to you because of
this
that.
person, they know what they're looking at, they understand what they need to complete the car and things like that.
Yeah. Is there any difference between like a Ferrari owner to like an Aston Martin owner or a Porsche owner? Is there any like nuances that you would expect to see any different?
Yeah, I think so. I think with Ferrari, from the 50s all the way through to the current models, they've always supplied like a book, handbook set, a toolkit. They've always came with those. Whereas I think with other brands, it was a bit, maybe some years they didn't bother. They weren't really interested. Where Ferrari were quite strict with that. So I think there's that element of it. I think also people appreciate the history of Ferrari and appreciate like what the brand is. So they want to have all of the items that go with the car. I can't really speak to other marques. We do a little bit of other brands, Lamborghini, Maserati, some Porsche stuff as well. But kind of 95% is Ferrari.
Mm. When did you get your first Ferrari?
So I bought my first Ferrari 10 years ago.
Yeah?
Yeah, so I bought it when I was 21.
So is that when the business really took its...
Well, sort of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's quite an interesting story. So I could see that the market was kind of changing and the values of them weren't necessarily what they are today. So I've always kind of wanted a Ferrari 308. I don't know why, but that was always kind of one of the pin-up cars for me. That and the Ferrari 355. The 355, because I was 21, there was no way I could insure it. I kind of would look at them on Auto Trader and on Piston Heads and all the, those kind of things.
You're a dreamer, son. No chance.
Exactly. Like, it's not happening. I think I looked up an insurance quote and it was about $7,000 to insure it. And I was like, yeah, it's not happening. So I found this Ferrari 308 in the US. So it's originally a European spec car. It was delivered to Italy, then went to the US. Found it on eBay and bid on it. Went out for the day, came back, and I'd won it. And I was like, oh my God, I don't have the money to pay for this Ferrari. Like, what am I going to do? But I was like, I can't miss this opportunity. Like, it's a decent price. They're going up in value, and I've always wanted one. So I called up my granddad, and I kind of said to him, look, granddad, I found this Ferrari. It's in the US. Will you loan me the money for it? And, you know, I'll ship it over, and then I'll probably look to sell it because they're going up in value. I can probably make some money. And he kind of, took the risk and was like, yeah, sure, I'll loan you the money.
What a
Like,
legend.
incredible.
Banker granddad going clutch.
Exactly. So he loaned me the money. I imported the car. And obviously, as soon as I got it, I was like, I can't sell this. Like, there's no way I'm selling this car. So that was when I was running the business. So when I'd sell things, I'd just pay him back little bits here and there gradually. And then eventually paid him it back in full. And yeah, I'd never sell the car.
Yeah.
I'd keep it forever.
That's so cool. That's
So
so
it's
fucking
quite a cool one.
I think the one thing that sticks out for me with Ferrari is that everything feels quite central to their HQ, like Maranello. Like everything feels very much around like just that area.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Have you been there?
Yeah, go regularly. I'm going.
Of course you do.
Yeah, no, I mean you have to.
Yeah.
I'm actually going next week as well. So yeah, I think it is the epicenter of Ferrari. I think Enzo kind of created it that way. It's kind of amazing now when you think about it because it's Maranello, which is a tiny little town. It's not. I mean, if you look at Porsche, it's Stuttgart. It's a big place. Whereas Maranello
feels very industrial, doesn't it? Everything. I can think of other brands. I think there's like a big industry paired to that. And
or just the size of it. Like you'd think, I don't know, Birmingham rather than a little town within Birmingham. You know, I mean, we're Birmingham based.
Suburbs,
that's why we're talking about that.
It's like a suburb, isn't it?
Yeah, which is crazy that then birthed this brand that's known everywhere in the world.
Yeah, and the first time that you went there, what was your expectation, and like what was just talk me through that first experience you go Maranello?
I think it was a bit of a pinch me moment, kind of, because I've always, you know, been into the brand as a whole. So actually going to where it's from and, you know, driving past the factory gates and, you know, you see the iconic Ferrari sign outside and the passion that everybody in that town has got for the brand. It's amazing.
Insane.
Yeah.
I think like when I go to Nürburgring and like you go there, I imagine it's similar sort of vibe. It's just everything in the town is just for that. Like it's for the track. Like for Nürburgring, the track, that's everything. Everyone is all about that. I haven't had the luxury to be able to go to Maranello as yet, but I think everyone is just Ferrari only.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I think, and in Modena in general, there's a lot of suppliers that they still use. There's a lot of, you know, all the paint, you know, place where the cars was painted today, that's still there. You know, it's still.
Are all the badges on the wings hand painted?
Not necessarily.
Right,
so you can get like an enamel shield, or you can pay extra and have the hand painted shields, which are pretty special. Then they come with a price, but you know they do look fantastic.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So detailed.
Yeah.
So the business obviously starting off and as it's known as classic Ferrari parts. Like, what's the balance between like a classic Ferrari and modern Ferrari in like your business involvement? Are you doing much modern Ferrari stuff?
Yeah. So we kind of do from the 50s. So from, you know, the kind of inception of Ferrari road cars, you know, 1947, all the way through to the current models. So we kind of, it's not just parts though. So we do parts, tools, literature, luggage, accessories, automobilia, original signs. We kind of cover all different types. So whether you need a part for your car because it's broken, you know, an ECU or something like that, or you're looking for some finishing touches for your garage, or you're looking for an original key ring from the period that's correct for your car, we kind of offer a bit of everything.
And like, what's the balance of the business? Are you doing more of one, significantly more of like literature? Are you doing like, what's that sort of look like? What's the balance?
Difficult to say. I think it kind of changes over time. I think it's changed recently as well. I mean, there's been a bit of a softening in kind of the 50s and 60s cars in terms of like values and maybe that side of stuff. And there's been people kind of pursuing the 80s, 90s, noughties cars. I think it's just the demographic of people buying the cars is changing over time. Yeah. So you see that, and then obviously the accessories and parts and stuff kind of go with that as well. But we still offer the full service.
That's class. Love that. How did you find yourself like getting in with suppliers? What does that look like? If he's like, I'm just going to dive straight in, turn up at their place, or is it like a LinkedIn message, like supplier relationships?
Yeah, difficult one. So that was kind of a long, it's a long process. So I source a lot of stuff in Italy. I go to Italy a lot. I've built a big network of suppliers there. The first time I went to one of the shows in Italy, I didn't speak Italian, and I was going around looking, trying to negotiate with people, and it was so difficult.
Have you learned Italian now?
Well, that was the point. So it was so difficult that I was, you're writing down numbers on a piece of paper to try and negotiate. And I was like, this is crazy. And I was telling my mum at the time, and my mum was like, you need to go and learn Italian. So I went to the Library of Birmingham. So I'd go once a week for 2 hours every week, and kind of went from nothing to, being able to have conversations and
converse.
Speak. Yeah, a lot. So, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm fluent, but, I'm not far off. And I'd speak to people on the phone every day in Italy. And I think that has also unlocked a lot of doors for me. It's enabled the business to thrive. It's enabled me to not just talk about business with suppliers, but connect on like a personal level too. So I think, for example, last year I was in Italy on holiday and, saw one of my suppliers down in the south where he's from, in Puglia, and just went and stayed with him for a couple of days and, go to the beach and go out for dinner and things like that. So it's kind of changed from just being that like supplier relationship to like a friend.
Friends.
Yeah, which it makes it much easier. We kind of will chat for hours first and then eventually get on to
100%.
Business.
Yeah, business last, isn't it, at that point?
Yeah.
No, I love that. That's incredible. Sort of like looking into the future with electrification and just evolving tech, have you like, what's the sort of Nostradamus thing you're seeing? Are you seeing into the future and thinking, this is where I see the Ferrari market?
Yeah, to be honest, I think the electrification stuff's really interesting. I can understand it from a certain perspective, but to be honest, I think it will actually like strengthen the classic car market, because if it gets to the point where you have to drive an electric vehicle every single day, then people who are petrol heads and who are into cars, maybe it's limited mileage or you can only use it, certain times, things like that, that people will want to have a classic car, whether it be a Ferrari or something else, just to have that experience of driving even, with, you look at Waymo and things like that, where it's autonomous driving, then people who are into driving and want to go to destinations and, drive on fantastic roads and things like that, you'll want to have a classic car to be able to get that feeling.
Yeah, I think traveling will be used for different reasons when it's so you'll travel because I want to travel here myself, and then there'll be a daily, which will drive itself.
Potentially, yeah.
That's really cool. And do you see how the business is ready to pivot while that happens? Because obviously there's going to be certain things where you're going to be facilitating for electrification, and then there's going to be certain things where you've, like you said, you market your strength.
I think, or you'll just focus on certain things. I think, from running your own business, you have to keep your finger on the pulse and know, like I was saying earlier, 50s and 60s cars have kind of softened. Maybe we need to look at the more modern cars because there's a lot of interest in those. So you're always across that. And even maybe you might look and say, okay, well, we'll just focus on the combustion engine cars. We won't do any of the electrification type stuff. We'll just focus on that side of the business. It allows you to create that niche and that focus, and you become known for that thing.
Ryan, give me a really cool standout story from where you've had to source something completely random from somewhere.
So there's been loads of crazy ones over the years.
All right, give me a couple.
A recent one, which was quite good, was I managed to source a complete luggage set for a Ferrari F40. What made it special was the fact that it was new old stock, still in the original box from 1990. Wow. So it had never been used. Someone had bought the car, bought the luggage with it, kind of put the luggage to one side, sold the car, and it had just sat there in their garage, and the set was in New York. So I got contacted, I think it was through the website. I had a client that I knew was interested in completing his F40 with the luggage. So I thought, well, what do I do? Booked the next plane ticket I could, went straight to New York to go and see it in person, because obviously it's high value items, they're really rare. I didn't know this particular person that was selling the item. So I was like, okay, I want to make sure the provenance is legitimate and make sure that it is what they say it is. So I went to New York, saw the set, bought it, shipped it back over, and managed to supply it to our client. And that was a pretty crazy one.
Shit, that's insane.
Yeah, it was an interesting.
Is that like quite a high ticket item then? Like, what can we expect to pay for a luggage set?
They kind of vary depending on condition and things like that. But yeah, that one was quite expensive.
Just think so, to send a man to New York.
Yeah, it wasn't cheap. But it's the rarity. I mean, they only made 1,300-ish F40s, in total.
Yeah. How
How many luggage sets are out there in the box still? Maybe one or two. The first thing you do whenever you buy anything is throw the box away. So yeah, that was quite a cool one.
That is massively standout. Have you had to travel to many countries for stuff like that though, to source? Like just a random part?
No, that was a bit of a one-off.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff, I go to Italy a lot for the business. A lot of stuff comes out of there. But I mean, I've recently managed to source, like I said, some stuff in Germany. We buy stuff all over the world, really. So yeah, it is really a worldwide.
And do you have anybody else in the business that is actively sourcing as much as what you are, or are you the main recruiter? Let's say?
No, that's my role, because I think it's having the knowledge to know what you're looking for. That's just invaluable, and it's so important that I can kind of cast my eye over it, look at it, and think, okay, that's correct. It's original. It's the right part.
Makes sense. Yeah, you're the orchestrator, I suppose.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I suppose lots of people, when it comes to your website, will always have frequently asked questions, which you wouldn't expect, because what they think would be the answer isn't the answer. So like an example is like, how many miles has your car got on?
Yeah. So I think with that, a lot of people ascribe value to like a low mileage car, which I understand from like a collector point of view. You can have delivery mile cars that are worth huge sums of money, and they're kind of the point in time. They're kind of a reference point because they haven't been edited or altered or in any way. But for me, it's trying to reframe that from low mileage having value to what have you done in the car? Where have you been in the car?
What's the story?
What memories have you created? That's more interesting for me personally. So, my cars, I recently went on a road trip with some friends to Croatia. I took, my Ferrari 355. A friend of mine also has a 355. And it's, you're driving in Germany or in Austria and, through Italy, and you're looking to your left and to your right, and you're there with your friends all in your cars.
In your dream car.
Yeah, it's just fantastic. It is a pinch me moment. It puts a smile on your face. And I think that has more value to me than looking at a car in, say, your garage and thinking, oh, it's got 5,000 miles from new. It's like, yeah, but
you've done nothing with it.
No, I can understand it, like I say, as a collector point of view. I can understand why people might want it as a reference point because it's, pristine. They do have their value in that respect. But for me, it's more about using them and like creating memories with them. And I think also they're beautiful to look at, but to drive, that's
what it's all about.
It's the sounds, it's the smells, it's, all of that comes with it.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. Do you get many people that ask you to try and source them a car?
I have had it in the past. I've done a little bit of that, but I've always found brokering, it's very difficult. So, for example, with that, everything that we sell, we hold in stock. We don't offer anything on consignment. Anything you see on the website, we own it. We're ready to send it out. And I think it helps kind of show that we believe in the items in which we stock.
It's going to be unusual because I think a lot of companies are drop shipping at the moment, aren't they? And they mitigate their risk.
It mitigates your risk. It enables you to leverage. But I think for us, it's kind of saying, look, we believe in this. We're willing to put money into it and own it. And it also means that we can then act quickly. So we can, next day, it's sent out with priority service rather than 2 weeks later, you still haven't received it. And, people making stuff to order and stuff like that.
And just making up lies. It's like if it's coming from somewhere else, don't lie to me.
Yeah.
You never owned it in the first place.
And especially in this industry, especially in the niche of Ferrari, everybody knows everyone else.
Yeah.
So if you've got a client, they might have already been offered it by someone else who actually does have the item. So you don't want to get caught short with that as well.
Yeah. It's got to help your reputation to be able to get it out of the door that quick as well.
I think so. I think that's important.
I think that's how a lot of your reputation has been built, in the fact that you can just get it out the door really quick, really efficiently, package it up nice.
Yeah, I think so. And I think people know that we actually own the items. It's not just something that's on consignment. And yeah, it kind of shows that we believe in it.
Got to be a massive advantage, that.
Definitely.
So Classic Ferrari Parts turns over a decent sum of money now. Where did the journey start?
So I think...
Really? Where did it fucking really start?
So I think it's one of those you have to really go back. I mean, I was the guy at school selling sweets, going...
Yes.
Love that. My school didn't have a tuck shop. I would always take some chocolates or sweets to school, crisps and things like that. There was a guy at school, and I remember I had, I think it was a pack of Maltesers, and he said to me, "Oh, I'll give you £5 for that." And
£5?
£5 for a pack of Maltesers.
The school you're going to,
and
that's
I thought,
insane.
This is crazy. Of course you can have it.
Yeah.
And then realised, okay, the school doesn't have a tuck shop. People don't necessarily always bring in sweets. So
can we just stop a sec for people that are watching this that don't understand what a tuck shop is? Because nobody's going to call it a tuck shop in 2025.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just, I guess, a shop in school where you could buy chocolate bars.
A snack machine.
That kind of thing. So
I love that you call it a tuck shop, by the way.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's what it was
I
called
know
at
tuck
school.
shops.
Yeah,
I used to have one myself. I used to be
really?
the tuck shop.
yeah,
I used to factor in that I would go and play football knowing that my bags would be down, like my shop, and I'd factor in the theft that had happened while I was playing football,
yeah.
and I'd still make profit based on the amount of theft that I make.
Yeah.
Is-
So my mum and dad had a membership at Costco. So I'd go to Costco with them, buy all the multi-pack, like 48 bars of, dairy milks and everything like that. And then I had 2 extra lockers at school. So I used to have 2 lockers full of, I'd take them in to school every single day,
Paraphernalia.
full of chocolate bars and sweets and everything like that. And then I used to have 2 guys, my friends at school, that would help me sell them as well, because we used to have 100 people in the classroom. So they'd be helping me sell all these sweets and chocolate bars and everything.
Shocking.
So that's how it all started.
And what does the business turn over today?
I think at the moment pushing on for 7 figures, trying to get to 7 figures. That's the next step.
Love that. So the journey from selling sweets to Ferrari parts seems like it's happened in a flash.
Yeah, I think it does go by in a flash, but I think it's always that thing of an overnight success story or something like that, and it's actually 10, 15, 20 years in the making. And I think
Millions of reps.
Yeah,
Millions
it's just
of reps,
constantly, showing up, being resilient, going through the problems, learning things along the way. And for me, it was just constantly reinvesting.
Yeah.
I think, as I said previously, it was being able to, even from the money that I made at school, selling sweets, put it into the bank, then bought some of the parts with it, and then reinvested that money and just kept it rolling, kept going on and on.
Yeah. Incredible. It's an incredible story, man.
Yeah, it's good.
Really good.
And the thing is, for me, it's a passion as well. It's not, I think that's what helps with the business. It's not just about the monetary value, but it's also about the people you get to meet. I've met so many interesting people, and we all share that same passion, not just a love of Ferraris, but a love of cars in general. So it's, you go to different events and it's connecting over that first. And I think that people can see that I'm just above all else a petrol head. I love cars. And yeah, I do happen to sell all of the parts and accessories and everything that goes with Ferraris, but I can appreciate just cars in general. And I love going to the shows as an enthusiast, not just to sell the services of the business.
So for us, like, our relationship with suppliers is everything. Like, do you have like any exclusive relationships with suppliers?
So not necessarily exclusive, but we do get kind of first refusal on certain items. So they'll come to us because we're known for, this kind of niche. They'll offer us things before then offering it to the kind of general market.
Yeah, you guys more like the distribution hub for suppliers, I suppose.
Yeah.
In loads of ways. Class. Right, if I was going to buy a classic Ferrari today, what should I be looking out for?
That's a good question. I think it really depends on what you're into. Like, what kind of cars are you into?
I love the sound, just the notes of like just a deep raw.
I think for me, I'd have to say a 355.
Okay.
They sound incredible.
Yeah.
It's a flat plating crank, 5 valves per cylinder, revs to kind of 8.5, 9,000. You put a custom exhaust on it. It sounds like a Formula One car, but of the 90s. They sound insane. So I'd say that's probably your
Okay.
best.
So if I'm after a 355, like I said to you, like, right, man, I know you don't broker. Like, I need a 355. Where are you pointing me?
So I've actually got a friend who's looking to buy one at the moment, a 355.
What are the chances?
Yeah. And he's kind of doing the same thing. So he's saying, well, which car should I be looking at? So there's kind of 3 types with the 355. You've got the Berlinetta, which is the coupe, like hard top. You've got the GTS, which is the Targa top, so you can remove the middle part of the roof. And then you've got the Spider. I'd say go for one of the first 2.
Okay.
I think they're the more raw kind of car. The Spider does tend to sometimes have problems with the roof. That kind of mechanism can be a bit of an issue. And I think, yeah, I'd go for one of the first 2. And then the other thing is to think about is with the 355, they offered them both in manual and with an F1 transmission. So the F1 transmission, it was like the first iteration of kind of the paddle shift. It was actually an automated manual box. So you kind of click the paddle and then wait 2 seconds and then it will change gear. Where I'd say go for the manual, because you've got that kind of the open gear shift gate, the click clack when you change gears.
Instant feedback.
Yeah, and it's more the visceral kind of driving experience. You get that, connection to the car. And I think that is now why these cars are really kind of going up in value, is people want that. They want to feel like they're part of the car, you know, driving it. It's not just computer systems that are helping you be this fantastic driver. Although they're not necessarily fast by modern standards, it's got the sound, it's got the smell, it's got that real like engaging experience.
I suppose classic cars just give you a different connection, don't they, to what a modern day car can?
Definitely,
like,
100%.
Well, the modern day cars are very safe.
Very safe,
very quick.
Very
Like,
quick, very comfortable. But a lot of the speed, you can't use it. You know, unless you go on a track day, and even then, your skill probably limits you to a certain extent. I couldn't drive a new Ferrari flat out because I'm probably not a good enough driver. Whereas with some of the classic ones, you can drive it at 7, 8, 9 tenths and really get that full use. And you're not going to lose your license instantly if you're doing it on the road, which is quite nice.
Yeah, all blow, no go. That's what we want.
Yeah, exactly.
What's next for the business? Like, what have you got? Anything in the pipeline? Have you got anything that's like we can tip over the line soon? Have you got a couple of things going?
Yeah, so we've got some interesting stuff coming along.
Okay.
Can't say too much about it at the moment, but yeah, working on some interesting stuff in the industry to kind of be able to offer our clients some other services. So yeah,
love that.
Definitely.
That sounds intriguing to say the least. Where can we find you? Where, like, if we want to reach out, if like I want to just talk crap about a Ferrari to you, where can I find you?
So on all the socials, it's just Classic Ferrari Parts. And then, the website is classicferrariparts.co.uk.
Amazing, man. Mate, you've got an incredible story. I love the business. Thank you very much.
No, thank you. It's been really good fun.
Cheers,
Enjoyed it.